The small apartment was quiet except for the faint sound of the girl humming to herself as she moved across the worn wooden floor. The sunlight poured through the thin curtains, casting soft lines across the room, and the furniture, though old, was neatly arranged. She paused for a moment to look out the window at the busy street below. Cars honked, and people rushed past each other, all busy with their own lives, and she felt like she was a small part of something much bigger. But today, her thoughts were not on the street or the noise of the city. They were on her simple wish. She had wanted something for a long time, something that seemed small to others but felt enormous to her. She wanted to play a song on the piano for her mother. It was her mother's birthday soon, and she wanted to make her happy in a way that was special, personal, and full of love. She imagined the look on her mother's face when she heard the music, the warmth of her smile, the way her eyes might shine with pride. In her mind, it was a perfect moment, simple yet beautiful. But sharing her wish with anyone else was a different story. At school, she kept her idea a secret. Her classmates, though not unkind, liked to tease anyone who seemed different or had dreams that sounded too big. She remembered the small group laughing when she mentioned she liked music and wished to play the piano one day. "That's not going to happen," one of them had said. "You'll never learn." Their laughter had made her cheeks burn, and she had quickly walked away, hoping they wouldn't see the small tears forming in her eyes. It hurt, but it didn't stop her dream. If anything, it made her hold onto it tighter. At home, she was different. Her mother had always encouraged her to dream, no matter how impossible it seemed. Though her mother worked long hours to keep their small household running, she always had time to listen to her daughter's stories, to cheer her on, to wipe away the little tears that came from moments of frustration or sadness. Her mother had never played the piano herself, but she knew the magic it could bring. She had once said, "Music can carry your heart when words cannot." And those words had stayed with the girl ever since. She stood in front of the old bookshelf where she kept a few treasured items. Among them was a small notebook where she had carefully written the notes she had learned from watching videos and listening to songs on the radio. Each page was filled with her neat, small handwriting, marking the keys, the rhythm, and little reminders to herself. Even though she had no formal lessons, she had taught herself, slowly and carefully, like planting a seed and watching it grow little by little. Every day after school, she would sit on the small stool in front of the old upright piano her neighbor had allowed her to use. The keys were slightly worn, and a few of them stuck if she pressed too hard, but it was perfect for her. It was her practice space, her sanctuary. Today, she decided she would try to play the piece she had been working on. She set her notebook carefully on the stand, took a deep breath, and placed her fingers on the keys. At first, the sounds were clumsy, unsure. The notes didn't flow together, and her fingers fumbled, missing a few keys. She frowned but did not give up. She closed her eyes for a moment and thought about her mother. She imagined the warm hug she would receive after the song, the soft smile that would make all the mistakes worth it. Slowly, the notes began to come together. The rhythm became steadier, the melody more recognizable. Her fingers learned the shape of the music as if they had memory of their own, and for a small moment, she felt as if she was creating something truly magical. Time passed, but she didn't notice. Hours melted away in the quiet of the apartment. Occasionally, her mother would peek in from the kitchen, carrying a dish or wiping her hands on a towel, and she would pause to watch her daughter's determination with a small, proud smile. The girl never looked up. She was lost in the music, each note a small piece of her heart reaching out to her mother. Despite her progress, doubts crept in. She remembered the laughter of her classmates and wondered if she was fooling herself. Could she really perform the song well enough to make her mother happy? What if she stumbled or made mistakes in front of everyone? These thoughts made her stomach twist with nervousness, but they also made her more determined. She had imagined this moment so many times that she could almost hear her mother's voice cheering her on, and that was enough to keep her going. Her mother finally called from the kitchen, breaking the quiet. "Dinner is ready." The girl sighed, reluctantly leaving the piano, but she knew she would return. She helped set the table, their conversation light and warm, filled with the ordinary details of the day. But underneath it all, the girl's mind was focused on her goal. After dinner, she returned to the piano, her fingers eager to continue where they had left off. The notes that had been shaky before now felt smoother. The song was taking shape, becoming more alive with each practice session. Later that evening, as the city outside grew dark and lights flickered on in neighboring windows, she sat at the piano one last time before bed. She played through the piece slowly, carefully, and then again, letting herself feel the music, letting it tell the story she wanted her mother to hear. Her fingers ached, her back was tired, but a small smile crept across her face. She had done it. She had taken another step toward making her wish real. As she closed the piano cover and prepared for bed, she thought about the days ahead. There would be more practice, more mistakes, more doubts. There would be people who laughed and said she couldn't do it. But there would also be her mother's smile, the warmth of her hug, and the music that came from her heart. That was worth everything. She lay down, pulling the blanket close, and imagined the day she would play the song for her mother. In her mind, the room was filled with music, her mother's face shining with pride and love. It was a small wish, perhaps simple to some, but to her, it was a dream that carried her hopes, her determination, and her love. As sleep took her, she held onto that dream tightly, ready to face whatever challenges tomorrow might bring, knowing that one day, she would make her mother's heart feel the joy she imagined so vividly tonight. The next morning, the girl woke up early, the sunlight just beginning to spill into her small room. She felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as she remembered her plan for the day. Today, she wanted to spend more time practicing on the piano. She tiptoed past her mother, who was already in the kitchen preparing breakfast, and grabbed her notebook from the shelf. The notebook had become her guide, her companion in this journey, filled with notes, reminders, and tiny drawings she had made to help remember the rhythm and the flow of the song. After breakfast, she returned to the piano, carefully placing her notebook on the stand. Today, she decided she would focus on the difficult parts, the ones that had made her pause or stumble before. She pressed the keys slowly, repeating each section over and over, letting her fingers learn the movement naturally. The piano, though old and slightly stubborn with some sticky keys, seemed to welcome her practice, and she felt the music slowly coming to life under her touch. As she played, she thought about her classmates who had laughed at her wish. She remembered the teasing voices, the cruel laughter that made her feel small and unsure. Those memories stung, but they also gave her strength. She realized that their doubts had nothing to do with her ability and everything to do with their own limitations. With each note she practiced, she imagined herself proving not to them, but to herself, that she could do it, that she could create something beautiful from her determination and love. Her mother peeked into the room occasionally, smiling softly when she saw her daughter's focus. Though her mother couldn't play the piano herself, she knew the effort and heart it took to learn something new, especially alone. She never said much, just a gentle word of encouragement or a nod of approval, letting the girl know she was there and proud. That small support meant more than anything, and it fueled the girl to continue despite the challenges. The day went on with slow, steady progress. She paused sometimes, frustrated by a note that refused to come out right or a rhythm that felt awkward under her fingers. But she never gave up. She learned to breathe through the mistakes, to try again, to listen closely and adjust. She realized that mistakes were not failures, but steps toward improvement. Each stumble, each awkward sound, was a small lesson, teaching her patience, focus, and resilience. Later, she decided to challenge herself even more. She had watched a video of a professional pianist and tried to mimic the style, the flow, and the emotion. It was not perfect, far from it, but she could feel her fingers moving with more confidence, her mind understanding the music in a deeper way. The rhythm began to feel natural, the notes connecting like pieces of a puzzle, forming a picture she had imagined in her heart for so long. Despite her growing skill, doubts crept in occasionally. Could she really play the song well enough to make her mother proud? What if she froze in front of others or played a wrong note? These questions lingered, but she had learned to let them pass without letting them stop her. She focused instead on the feeling the music gave her, the joy it created, and the thought of seeing her mother smile. That thought was stronger than any fear. In the afternoon, she went out to visit her neighbor who had kindly allowed her to use the piano whenever she could. The neighbor, a kind elderly woman, watched her play and offered gentle guidance. "Try to feel the music, not just the notes," she said, her eyes twinkling. "Let it come from your heart." The girl listened carefully and tried again, letting herself close her eyes and imagine the story the song was telling. Slowly, she felt the music become part of her, a conversation between her fingers and her heart. When she returned home, she practiced again in her small apartment. The room was quiet except for the soft, melodic sound of the piano filling the space. Her mother moved quietly around the apartment, giving her small smiles of encouragement. Sometimes she brought a cup of tea or a small snack, placing it near the piano to keep her energy up. The girl appreciated these gestures, realizing that support and love could come in many forms, not just words. The hours passed quickly. She became tired, but the thought of her mother's birthday kept her going. She knew that the journey was not just about learning the song. It was about showing love, dedication, and perseverance. Each note was a small gift, a way to say without words how much she cared, how much she wanted to create something beautiful for someone she loved deeply. As evening approached, she took a small break, sitting by the window and looking out at the city. The streets were busy, lights beginning to glow in the distance. She thought about how small she felt in the vast world, yet how powerful her determination was. Even a simple wish could become something extraordinary if one believed and worked for it. She felt proud of herself, not because she had finished the song, but because she had committed to her dream and refused to let laughter or doubt stop her. She returned to the piano for a final practice before dinner. Tonight, she focused on playing the song from start to finish, paying attention to the flow and the emotion behind each note. Her fingers moved more confidently, her mind more focused, and for a brief moment, the music felt alive, telling the story she had been imagining all along. It was still not perfect, but it was beautiful in its own way, full of heart and effort. Her mother called from the kitchen that dinner was ready again. The girl left the piano, a little reluctantly, but with a sense of accomplishment. She had worked hard, learned new things, and moved closer to her goal. She helped set the table, shared a meal with her mother, and spoke softly about her day, careful not to mention all the challenges she had faced. But her mother could see it in her eyes, in the quiet pride she carried, and she felt a deep sense of joy and love. Before going to bed, the girl returned to her notebook, reviewing the notes and practicing a few tricky sections quietly. She knew that tomorrow would bring more practice, more focus, and more challenges. But she was ready. She had learned that persistence, patience, and love could carry her through difficulties, and that even small dreams could grow into something remarkable. As she lay down that night, the sounds of the city fading into quiet, she thought about the day ahead, about the music she was creating, and about the happiness she wanted to give her mother. Her wish was simple, but it was filled with heart, effort, and hope. She drifted into sleep holding on to that hope tightly, knowing that each day she practiced, each note she learned, was a step closer to turning her simple wish into a moment that could touch someone deeply and beautifully. The morning of her mother's birthday arrived with the soft glow of sunlight spilling into the small apartment. The girl woke up earlier than usual, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Today was the day she would finally play the song she had been practicing for so long. She felt the weight of her wish, but also the joy of anticipation. This day, she thought, could change everything. She moved quietly around the apartment, careful not to disturb her mother, who was still asleep. She opened her notebook and went through the notes once more, tracing the lines with her fingers as if to memorize every small detail. Each symbol, each note had a story, and each was a step toward the moment she had dreamed about. The hours of practice, the small triumphs, and the challenges all led to this day. After a quick breakfast, she went over the plan in her mind. She had imagined herself sitting in front of the piano, the soft sunlight illuminating the room, her mother watching, and the music filling the space. She could hear the melody in her head, every note flowing in the way she wanted it to, every pause carrying emotion. She took a deep breath and tried to steady the fluttering feeling in her stomach. As she approached the piano, her hands trembled slightly. The old keys were familiar, yet today they seemed more significant than ever. She placed her notebook carefully on the stand and positioned her fingers on the keys, taking a moment to feel the weight of the music, to breathe in the story she was about to tell. She closed her eyes briefly and imagined her mother smiling, the warmth of pride and love shining in her eyes. Her mother entered the room, still rubbing her eyes from sleep. She paused when she saw her daughter at the piano, a small, nervous smile on her face. There was no need for words. The love and effort were visible, and her mother felt her heart swell. She sat quietly in a chair nearby, letting the girl take the moment as her own. The girl began to play softly, the notes tentative at first, uncertain as her fingers remembered the paths they had traced so many times before. She stumbled over a few keys, and for a second, panic threatened to take hold. But then she remembered all the hours of practice, all the moments she had faced doubt and kept going. She inhaled deeply, letting the fear dissolve, and started again, this time with more confidence. The melody began to flow, a simple, gentle tune that carried with it all the care, love, and hope she had poured into it. As the song continued, the room seemed to change. The small apartment was filled with a warmth and beauty that had not been there before. The notes intertwined with the quiet morning air, creating a moment that felt suspended in time. Her mother watched with tears forming in her eyes, unable to stop the proud smile that spread across her face. The girl's simple wish was becoming real, note by note. Outside, the city carried on with its usual noise, but inside the apartment, there was only music. Each part of the song carried emotion, each pause and crescendo telling a story of love, dedication, and perseverance. The girl was lost in the music, her fingers moving as if guided by something deeper than herself. The melody was not perfect in the way a professional pianist might play, but it was perfect in its honesty, in the heart it carried. Her mother reached out a hand, touching her daughter's shoulder lightly, but saying nothing. She didn't need to. The girl felt the support, the quiet encouragement that had been there her whole life. For a moment, she glanced at her mother, seeing the pride and warmth shining back at her, and that sight gave her strength to continue. The song reached the part she had struggled with the most in practice. The rhythm was tricky, the notes confusing, and her fingers wanted to hesitate. She closed her eyes briefly, breathed deeply, and remembered the hours she had spent learning this moment. Slowly, carefully, she played the section, each note falling into place. The tension in the room shifted. There was a feeling of magic, as if the small apartment had transformed into a concert hall where her heart led the music. When the final notes rang out, there was a small silence, a pause that seemed to stretch for a moment. Then her mother stood up, her eyes glistening, and clapped softly. The girl turned toward her, her face flushed, a mix of relief and pride flooding through her. She had done it. She had played the song she had imagined, the song she had worked so hard to perfect. And more than anything, she had made her mother feel the love and joy she had wanted to share. For a few minutes, they simply looked at each other, words unnecessary. The music had said everything, had carried the emotion that could not be put into sentences. Her mother hugged her tightly, whispering words of pride and love. The girl felt a warmth she had never experienced before, a deep connection that made all the struggle worthwhile. The rest of the day passed in a gentle, happy blur. Family members who came to visit also heard her play, some marveling at how much skill and emotion she had poured into her performance. Even some neighbors stopped by to compliment her, having heard about her small, quiet wish. The laughter that had once made her doubt herself seemed far away now, replaced by admiration and encouragement. That evening, the girl sat at the piano again, replaying parts of the song quietly for herself. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, but also knew that this was only the beginning. Her wish had been simple, but achieving it had taught her lessons about perseverance, courage, and the power of following one's heart. She realized that success was not just about the applause or recognition, but about the journey, the effort, and the love behind it. As night fell, she closed the piano and placed her notebook on the stand, knowing she would continue to practice, to improve, to learn. The day had been more than she had imagined, and she felt ready to face whatever challenges came next. Her simple wish had created a memory, a story, and a feeling that would stay with her forever. Before going to sleep, she lay in bed and thought about the morning, the music, and the look in her mother's eyes. Her heart felt light, her mind calm, and her spirit uplifted. She had learned that even a small wish could carry tremendous meaning, that effort and love could turn dreams into reality, and that music had the power to connect hearts in ways words could not. Sleep finally came, gentle and deep, as the girl held onto the memory of the morning, ready to wake up and continue her journey with hope and determination. The next day, the girl woke with a lingering sense of happiness from the day before. The song she had played for her mother had been more than she imagined. But today was different. Today, her mother insisted that she play for some visiting relatives and a few close friends. The girl felt a mixture of nervousness and excitement. She wanted to show them what she had accomplished, but the thought of performing in front of more people made her stomach twist. Still, she knew she could do it. She had practiced, learned, and grown. This was another step, and she was ready. She went to the piano early, placing her notebook on the stand and running her fingers through the familiar notes. The room seemed smaller with the extra chairs and people waiting, but she reminded herself that the music came from her heart, and that was what mattered most. She imagined the melody carrying across the room, connecting everyone to the story she wanted to tell. As the guests arrived, there were smiles and greetings, but also some curiosity. Many had heard that she was planning a small performance, and some quietly doubted she could manage it. The girl noticed the glances, the raised eyebrows, and the whispers, but she focused on her mother. She remembered her mother's pride, the way she had smiled and encouraged her, and it gave her strength. She took a deep breath and approached the piano, ready to start. The first notes were soft and tentative, her fingers remembering each path across the keys. The people in the room listened quietly, some exchanging glances, unsure of what to expect. The girl's nerves were still there, but they were tempered by the love and dedication that filled her heart. She let the music flow, letting each note carry the emotion she felt for her mother, for the hard work, and for the journey that had brought her to this moment. As she played, the atmosphere began to change. The initial doubts and curiosity in the room melted away, replaced by silence and attentiveness. Her fingers moved with confidence, the rhythm steadier, the melody growing more expressive. She imagined her mother's face in the audience, smiling and proud, and that image guided her through every tricky part. She played each section carefully, but with emotion, letting the music breathe and rise naturally. The challenging parts, which had caused her so much trouble during practice, were executed beautifully. Her concentration and determination showed through every note. The people who had doubted her before were now leaning in, captivated by the music and the story it told. The melody seemed to fill the room, reaching every corner, and creating an invisible connection between her and everyone who was listening. The shy, quiet girl had transformed into a confident musician, even if just for this moment. Her mother's eyes glistened with tears as the song continued, the warmth and love radiating from her smile, giving the girl courage. For the first time, she realized that her wish was not only about playing the song, but also about creating a feeling, a memory, something that would stay with those who heard it. She played with care, with passion, and with a joy that was impossible to ignore. As the final notes rang out, the room remained silent for a heartbeat. Then, slowly, the applause began. It started softly, then grew louder as everyone in the room realized how remarkable the performance had been. People were smiling, nodding, and some even had tears in their eyes. The girl felt a swell of pride and relief. She had done it. She had taken her simple wish and turned it into a moment that touched hearts. Her mother stood and hugged her tightly, whispering words of pride and love. The girl could feel the warmth of her mother's joy, and it made every hour of practice, every moment of doubt, completely worth it. She realized that the laughter of her classmates, the moments of uncertainty, had all been steps leading to this triumph. She had learned that persistence, love, and dedication could create something truly extraordinary. The guests continued to praise her, complimenting not just her skill, but the emotion she had put into the performance. Even those who had doubted her initially apologized or expressed surprise at her talent. The girl listened, smiling shyly, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. She understood now that the magic was not in perfection, but in the heart, effort, and courage behind every note. After the performance, the girl spent some time talking with her mother and the guests. People asked about her practice, how she had learned the song, and what inspired her. She shared quietly, without boastfulness, explaining that it was a simple wish, a desire to make her mother happy, that had driven her. Everyone listened with interest, realizing that the story behind the music was as meaningful as the music itself. Later, when the guests left, the girl returned to the piano alone. She played the song once more, this time for herself, savoring the feeling of the music and the joy it had brought to others. She closed her eyes and let the notes flow naturally, remembering the moments of struggle, the long hours of practice, and the feeling of accomplishment that now filled her heart. She realized that her journey was more important than any applause, that each note was a story, and that each practice session had strengthened her in ways she hadn't imagined. Her mother came to sit beside her quietly, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. She didn't need to say anything. Her presence was enough. The girl leaned against her mother, feeling safe, loved, and proud. They sat together for a while, listening to the music fade into the quiet of the evening. The girl felt a deep sense of connection, not just to her mother, but to the music itself, and to the journey she had taken to reach this moment. That night, the girl lay in bed thinking about the transformation she had experienced. The simple wish that had seemed small and fragile had grown into something powerful. It had brought her confidence, skill, and a deeper understanding of perseverance and love. She felt grateful for every moment, every challenge, every bit of laughter and doubt that had pushed her forward. Her story was not just about a song or a performance. It was about courage, dedication, and the joy of following her heart. Sleep came gently, filled with dreams of music, warmth, and the smiles she had inspired. The girl knew that there would be more songs, more wishes, and more challenges ahead, but she was ready. She had learned that even a small wish could create moments that changed hearts, and that the music within her was a gift that could reach far beyond herself. She closed her eyes, holding on to the feeling of triumph and love, ready to wake up and continue her journey, knowing that her simple wish had already become something extraordinary. The following morning, the girl woke up with a sense of calm and quiet pride. The events of the past days had left her filled with joy and gratitude. Her mother's birthday had been more beautiful than she could have imagined, and the performance had been a success beyond her wildest dreams. But today, there was a different kind of excitement, one that was quieter and more reflective. She had a chance to think about everything she had achieved, the lessons she had learned, and the small wish that had sparked a journey of growth and confidence. She went to the piano immediately, as if drawn by a natural need to continue, to feel the music with her heart and fingers. She opened her notebook, her notes already familiar, and started to play through the song. This time it was different. She played not to impress anyone, not to gain approval, but because the music was a part of her now. Each note carried the memory of her hard work, the small victories over doubt, the quiet moments of determination. The melody felt alive, vibrant, and full of meaning. After finishing the piece, she paused and leaned back on the piano bench, letting the silence fill the room. She thought about the people who had doubted her, the classmates who had laughed, and even herself when she had questioned her abilities. All of it had led her to this moment. She realized that every challenge, every small fear, had strengthened her in ways she could never have imagined. The laughter and doubt had not been roadblocks but steps toward building her courage and resolve. Her mother entered the room quietly, smiling and carrying a cup of tea. She sat beside her daughter, a hand resting gently on her shoulder. There were no words needed. The pride and love in her eyes spoke volumes. The girl smiled back, feeling a deep connection that went beyond music. It was a connection of heart, of shared effort, and of understanding that sometimes the simplest wishes, pursued with dedication, could create the most meaningful moments. Throughout the day, visitors came to the apartment, some out of curiosity, some having heard about the performance from neighbors. Each time, the girl played a piece, each note resonating with her love and care. People listened, captivated not just by the skill but by the emotion she brought to the music. The applause that followed each performance was not the most important part. What mattered most was the feeling, the bond that the music created between her and everyone who heard it. As the day went on, the girl found moments to reflect on her journey. She remembered the early mornings and late evenings spent practicing, the small setbacks, and the times when her fingers had fumbled on tricky notes. She realized that every challenge had been a teacher. She had learned patience, persistence, and the power of believing in herself. She understood now that talent was not just about natural ability, but about the effort, heart, and courage to pursue a dream despite obstacles. Her mother watched with pride as her daughter shared her music with others. She had always known her daughter's potential, but seeing her take a simple wish and turn it into something that touched hearts was extraordinary. She encouraged her, praised her efforts, and reminded her that the joy she had created was a gift not just to others but to herself. The girl nodded quietly, understanding that her mother's support had been a constant, guiding light throughout her journey. By evening, the apartment was quiet again, the day's excitement settling into a peaceful calm. The girl sat at the piano, playing the song one last time for herself. She let her fingers flow naturally, the music carrying memories of the past days, the hope for future growth, and the love that had fueled her effort from the very beginning. She realized that the song was more than just notes on a page. It was a story of determination, love, and the beauty of pursuing even the simplest wishes with heart and courage. Her mother joined her once more, listening quietly as the melody filled the apartment. They shared a moment of silence, a feeling of connection that needed no words. The girl felt proud, not because of recognition or applause, but because she had grown, learned, and created something meaningful from her own effort and heart. She understood that success was not measured by perfection, but by the courage to follow one's dreams and the ability to touch others with honesty and love. Later that night, as the girl prepared for bed, she reflected on everything she had experienced. She thought about the laughter that had once made her doubt herself, the challenges that had tested her patience, and the moments of triumph that had filled her heart with pride. She understood that every step, no matter how small, had contributed to her growth and to the realization of her simple wish. Her heart was full, and she felt ready to face future challenges with the same determination and courage. She lay down, closing her eyes and letting the memories of the past days settle like a soft, comforting blanket around her. The music she had played, the joy she had created, and the love she had shared had all become part of her, shaping her into someone stronger, more confident, and more aware of the power of persistence and heart. She drifted into sleep, carrying with her the knowledge that even the simplest wishes, when pursued with dedication and love, could create moments of extraordinary meaning and lasting joy. As she slept, she dreamed of future songs, of melodies yet to be discovered, and of the happiness she could continue to bring to others through her music. The simple wish that had started this journey had grown into a story of courage, determination, and love that would stay with her forever. She had learned that dreams, no matter how small, could transform not only the dreamer but also those around them. And with that knowledge, she slept peacefully, ready to greet each new day with hope, courage, and a heart full of music.